Okay, so I'm live, but this was all messed up. So I don't know whether everybody else is on a different stream, which looks like it's possible. So I'm going to have to get rid of that. What do I do here? So this one, delete that one. Yeah, delete that one. And then hopefully people will find me again. So I'm just going to have to wait and see if anybody finds me. If not, I just have to abandon it for today. Should I start singing? Oh, I don't know what to do. Let's see what happens. Does anybody find? Oh, somebody found me. Somebody found me. This is exciting. Hello, the person that found me. I'm sorry, I had some technical difficulties and I had to set up a new stream. So I'm hoping that other people will find me. So whoever you are, say hello. Just type, "Hi, Gigi. I'm the person that managed to find you after your mess up of technical issues." Say hi, please. Say hi. That'd be great. And you're gone. Oh, no. What to do? What to do? What to do? Okay, you're back. So hello, person who managed to find me. I had some technical issues. I had to set up Alicia. Hello. Oh, excuse me. I had some technical issues and I had to set up a new stream. So there were a whole bunch of people waiting on the other stream and I had to delete that stream and start a new stream. So I'm hoping that magically people will manage to find me. So fingers crossed. So we may have to hang around a little bit, Alicia, for other people to actually find the stream. If not, you're going to get a one-to-one session with me, which I'm sure is very exciting. Oh, and now it tells me you're gone. So are you there? Are you gone? What's the story? You're still there, Alicia? Oh. Now I can see myself on YouTube. I think today is just not my day. Oh, hey, Chad. You found me as well. Excellent. Right, so we have at least Alicia and Chad here, hopefully. So I tell you what, Alicia and Chad, I'd messed up or I had some technical issues. Oh, John's here as well. Good. Okay. So a couple of people have found me now. Good. So I keep saying this over and over, but I had some technical issues. I had another stream. I had to cancel that stream and start a new stream. So who knows whether people are. Yes, Tom, I'm really sorry. I had some technical issues, Tom, and nothing was connecting. So I had to cancel one stream and start another and then pray to every single God that I could think of that you would find me. So you found me, Tom. Thank goodness for that. I'm really, really sorry. Technical hitch on that one. All right. So it's probably going to take a little bit of time for people to find me if they find me at all. So I'm just going to get going and then whoever arrives. It has not been my week for live streams this week. I don't know if you were here on Monday, but it was a complete disaster. Sorry, my glasses are filthy. I can barely see out of them. It was a complete disaster. I streamed directly from YouTube. The lag was horrific and everybody was really struggling to even bear to watch me. So that was a complete disaster. And then we have this disaster. So I guess some weeks it just ain't your week and you got to suck it up and move on. So that is what I'm going to do. Oh, and I had some nasty dentistry on Monday as well, just to top it all off for my week. So this week has not been my favorite week in November, but oh, well, I'm glad you found Monday useful, Chad. That makes me feel a bit better. I just hated every moment of it, to be honest with you. It just looked like such bad quality. But I'm glad you found it useful. My tooth still hurts from Monday, I have to say. I'm moaning. Stop moaning, Gigi. No one's streaming your content to hear you moaning, I hear you say. All right, so let's just get going and see how it plays out. So I'll do my intro. I am Gigi, and I'm an ex-senior leader from Amazon. I was both a senior leader in the marketing area for about 5 years, and I was a bar raiser. So if you don't know what a bar raiser is, although I think most of you here probably do, so I'll do that swiftly. So effectively, as a bar raiser, I had the opportunity to interview and bar raise on dozens of different job families, tech and non-tech, from graduates all the way up to directors, countries all around the globe. Mostly, if you're interviewing at Amazon as like a normal employee or hiring manager, you only interview around your own subject area. If you're a recruiter, then you're only kind of interviewing in the broadest sense of the term, because recruiters have no say whatsoever in the actual interview process for the jobs that they are hiring for. But really, you're only speaking to people from your own subject matter expert area. So if you're a recruiter for SDEs, you're only talking to SDEs. If you're a recruiter for, I don't know, marketing, you're only ever talking to marketers. You have a very narrow focus on the Amazon process. As a bar raiser, I pretty much saw it all. I really, really understand what it takes to get hired at Amazon. And I personally gave the go to hire hundreds of Amazonians. Whilst I was there, I realized that people who had expert coaching, I'm guessing it's not a surprise to you, did a lot better than those that didn't. I started to look into how much that costs, and you're looking at least in kind of the Western world, the best you're going to do is $200 an hour, up to some people who are charging like $750 an hour or for a coaching session. I realized that there was a more efficient and effective way of doing that through digital content, and that makes it more affordable. So I set up my Amazon Interview Whiz Academy, where I basically have digital programs that teach you everything you need to know to get hired at Amazon. And of course, I have my YouTube channel. And on my YouTube channel, I try and make my content very specific and very actionable. So it's not just me talking vagaries, trying to convince you to buy my product. You can actually use my channel to get hired, and many hundreds and hundreds of people have. Yay! And I do these free sessions. So let's just get going with the free session. And now I've got a pounding headache as well. Oh, Jesus, today is not my day. Excuse me for using that in vain. Right, let's get going. So as always, I'm just going to ask you to ask me your questions here in the comment section on the side. I will attempt to answer it. I should be able to answer pretty much every question that gets asked. Sometimes people ask me really specific technical questions about a very specific role. Obviously, I've had a lot of exposure at Amazon, but there are so many thousands of different roles and job families. There's no way one person can get to the nth degree of detail on every single job family. So there are some questions I won't be able to answer. But in the main, I should be able to answer most questions that you have. Looks like we're a small group because of my technical issues. So fire away, and we'll just run for as long as it takes for everyone to run out of their questions. And then you can all go your merry way, and I can strike off this week as being a horrible YouTube week. Let's get going. I'm going to say hello to people as they arrive as well. So let's just say I've already said hello to Alicia. So welcome. Thank you, Alicia. And Chad's here as well. John's back. Welcome back, John. And obviously Tom's here. Great. Right, so bang down your questions and let's get going. So I think, Tom, you have a question. Okay. Dress codes. Dress codes, cool. So you've got an SDE loop, cool, very exciting. Everyone says dress appropriately, jeans and t-shirt or decent pants and open neck shirt with a collar. Okay, so no one in Amazon is going to or should judge you based on your appearance. I worked in Amazon for a very long time, and I work with a huge range of different teams, from kind of your legal teams all the way through to the QAs, developers, UX designers, you name it. And everybody kind of had their own style. If you were on the floor that I was on, that was generally finance people and marketing people, then mostly we were in relatively smart clothes. So, maybe a nice pair of trousers, jeans, a shirt. When I headed down to some of the dev floors, particularly in the summertime, I was walking through a floor where I was seeing a lot of knobbly knees, and hairy knobbly knees at that, Hawaiian shorts, flip-flops, and t-shirts. Whatever goes. So Tom, my advice is wear what makes you feel comfortable within reason. Don't rock up in your pajamas. But, if a t-shirt and a pair of jeans works for you and you're going to feel comfortable and relaxed and then able to perform your best at the interview, you wear that. If a pair of, a nice suit with a crisp tie and a nice white starch collar makes you feel good about yourself and will help you perform the best that you can, then you wear that. So appropriate dress, as far as I'm concerned, is what you're most comfortable in. I have no recollection whatsoever of what anybody I interviewed wore, and that's how it should be. No one should be judging you or will be judging you based on your appearance, right? Unless, of course, you kind of got a cigarette hanging out your mouth and like red bloodshot eyes and a beer can in your hand. Other than that, you decide, whatever makes you comfortable. By the way, I did interview someone once who was smoking. That was very strange, but that's another story. Okay. What else do we have here then? Okay, cool. So I'm going to go for Lalit on this one. I've definitely never seen you before on my lives because I would definitely recognize that name. So welcome. Thank you for finding your way here today. So if you're doing the writing exercise, then if you haven't already, please do go check out my video on my YouTube channel about the writing exercise, funnily enough, where I will give you and do give you some really good specific tips about things to watch out for and things to make sure that you do and don't do in your writing sample. So hopefully that will be useful to you. Lo Monk has arrived. Oh, hello. How are you doing? Thanks for coming along. Appreciate it. Okay. Yeah, John. So you're interviewing for a senior PM tech. Okay. Just to be clear, product manager or program manager? People often forget to be specific about that. I'm not sure it matters too much, but should your starry stories center around data skills with tools like Python, SQL? Right. So it's always a good idea, wherever you can, to try and have your stories relate to the type of work that you would be doing in the role that you're going into. So if the role that you're going into requires quite a lot of work with Python, SQL, etc., oh, it is a product manager. Okay. So if that's going to be part of your role, but I'm not sure it would be part of your role as a product manager to work directly with tools like Python and SQL. Correct me if I'm wrong. But what you really want to do is try and align your stories to what you're actually going to be doing in the job. So check out the job description. I always think that people don't make enough use of the job description because there's two things that the job description is going to do for you. First of all, it's going to tell you the leadership principles that you should really be focused on. But the second thing it's going to tell you is the type of work that that person is going to do. And it'll show you the breadth of work that that person is going to do. So if you can identify the types of activities, responsibilities, however they define it in the job description, and try and pick examples from your career history that actually show you doing that particular work, then it's a really easy bridge for your interviewers to be able to say, yeah, John's done all of this type of work before. He'll know what he's doing technically. And then, oh, yes. And as well as being able to see that in his examples, we saw all of these behaviors of the leadership principles that we really, really care about. So that's my tip. Now, whether it's specific to Python, SQL, etc., I couldn't say. I don't think I've worked with many product managers who had to actually write Python code, but you check out your job description and then really take the lead from the job description. I hope that helps, John. Okay. So I really shot myself in the foot with this. Our numbers are small and therefore the questions are not coming fast. So any other questions that anybody wants to ask? I'll do your tips whilst we wait to see if anyone's got any other questions. Any tips on the writing assessment? So obviously you'll see them if you watch the video, but at a high level, I will spend some time talking to you about it now. So the first tip is be concise. So Isn't that funny? I just said be concise, and someone said, can the writing assessment be as detailed as possible? How weird. Be concise, right? So you want to give enough detail so that the narrative has depth, but you don't want to give tons of erroneous detail. So avoid putting in information that has no bearing whatsoever on the narrative. Make it concise. I suppose make that specific. Then make it concise. Use as few words as possible to say what you're going to say. So if you can, if you've said the sentence in 10 words, see if you can find some alternative way of saying the sentence in 6 words. Amazon documents are always really, really frugal with the amount of words that they use to express something. So that's my next tip. My third tip is be specific when it comes to the claims that you make. So, for example, you might have run a project where you increased the sales of something. I'm making this up clearly. But instead of saying sales went up, what you would need to say is sales increased from 1,000 units a week to 1,500 units a week. Being very, very specific. So Amazon documents do not ever say something went up. What they say is it started here and it ended here. So that's the second tip that I will give you. Oh, no, it's the third tip that I will give you, isn't it? What else can I say? The other thing that I will give you as a tip when it comes to the writing sample, and you will see this in the video, is I recommend that people just follow the starry structure that sorry, my daughter's in the room and crashing and banging around. The starry structure. So I know that's intended for use in actual interviews, but the reason why it's intended for use in interviews is it just gives you a really good blueprint for how to tell a story in a very structured and easy to follow fashion. Well, the writing sample is just a written version of telling a story. So I find it's really, really useful for candidates to follow that STARI structure, because then they're very clear on what they need to include in each of the sections. You don't have to write a header that says situation and then a header that says task. You don't need to do that. But just in your own head, be clear that this paragraph or these 2 paragraphs are my situation. These 2 paragraphs are going to be my task, so on and so forth. So I guess those are my tips around the writing sample. Do check out the video there. I think I give you a little bit more detail in the video on my YouTube channel. All right, so moving on then. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Hopefully I answered that one for you, Amir. Can you use the same in writing exercise as the behavioral test as well? Yes, I do say to people that if you feel that you just don't have examples to have absolutely unique examples for everything, then if you're going to repeat anywhere, then repeating in the writing sample is probably the best place to repeat, because the whole point of the writing sample isn't really to gather behavioral data. Rather, the point of the writing sample is to, probably not surprisingly, test whether you can actually write clearly, concisely, and specifically. So if you need to repeat, then really the writing sample is the place to do it, because they're not really looking for behaviors. They're really using it to assess your ability to write a good, clear document. So yes, I would say that's fine. And people very, very often do that. And I've hired plenty of people who used the written sample and had a same story as they used in their interview. So it's not a hamstringer. Okay. All right, Chad. Hey. So you've got your first phone screen for an SDE. Yeah, in a couple of hours. Do those generally have many behavioral questions, or is it mostly technical? Oh, okay, Chad. And you're fairly nervous about the behavioral. Right, Chad. So the first thing I'm going to say is in a couple of hours, so you've got a few minutes, please go check out the video on my YouTube channel from a gentleman called Vivek. It's all about tips for SDE interviewing at Amazon. So if you haven't, it's quite a long one, but I think I've chaptered it. So you can probably get through it relatively quickly and play it on kind of speed 1.75 or something. So watch that. I would say, excuse me, I've got a hair caught in my eye. I would say, Chad, you are most likely, and different teams do it differently, but kind of from a trend perspective, for SDEs, you are actually most likely really to be focused on the technical side of things in round one. It's a technical role, and the reason why the highest probability is that they'll focus on the technical elements in round one is because if you haven't actually got the technical skills to do the job, there's not much point in taking you very far down the interview process at Amazon. So they tend to try and knock that one on the head in the early rounds. So I'm going to go out on a limb, Chad, and say you're probably really going to be talking about mainly being focused on the technical side of things in your early rounds. If you make it through that first round, it's at that point where behavioral questions will start coming into the interview process. But please do check out that video from Vivek, because I think that will be really helpful for you. It also comes with a support sheet that you can download totally for free. So do that as well. I promise you, you'll get great value from it. Vivek's amazing. Okay. Oh, wow. Hey, Blue Butterflies. That is such a nice name. Okay, so you got an offer from Amazon. Oh, you took my masterclasses as well. Excellent. Yes. Yes. I am so thrilled for you, Blue Butterflies. I feel a bit better today. I was feeling a bit miserable a minute ago because my whole technical challenges, but that's made me feel better. So thank you. Thank you for coming and telling me that. You've given me a little bit of a boost. My mouth is still hurting from my dentistry. Congratulations. I say this very regularly, so I'm sure if you've watched my previous videos, my lives, you've heard this before. So I'm sorry if it's a bit, but Blue Butterflies, you are going to have an awesome career. You will learn at a speed that you would never learn anywhere else. You'll learn the types of things that you would never have thought of trying to learn in any other company. And you'll work with absolutely the smartest people on the planet, no question about it. So I'm so delighted that I was able to support you in terms of landing your Amazon role. Congratulations. You're going to love it. It's going to be great. Okay, let's move on then. Oh, Tom, you've got some advice for Chad. That's nice. Yeah, so you had coding and 2 LPs in your first round. Interesting, Tom. Interesting. All right, so is it possible to pass the interviews even if a part of it didn't go as well as you'd hoped? Yeah, for sure. So the Amazon interview process is about looking at all of the data in the round. So you go through a number of different rounds, fine. Or even if we're talking about just a single round. Ultimately, your interviewers are trying to look at the balance of the data. Now, if you've just done one interview and that one interview really didn't go very well, or a couple of elements of that one interview didn't go really well and maybe one did, then obviously the odds are against you because that's a very limited data set. If you're talking to me about Loop, where you've gone through, 5-ish, average is 5, different interviews with different people, and 1 or 2 of the interviews maybe weren't as strong as you wanted, but you smashed it out the park with the other 3, then it's the balance of data that they're going to be assessing. And the other thing I think to bear in mind, Umer, is I believe there's been a number of studies done on this where there shows absolutely zero correlation between how a candidate feels an interview went and how an interviewer feels an interview went. I know a lot of us come out of an interview and we go, yeah, I smashed that, or no, I did terribly. And you think that you know exactly how it's gone. You probably don't, other than where if it was a complete disaster and you literally couldn't string a sentence together, then, maybe you're probably quite a good judge as to whether it went badly. But broadly speaking, I wouldn't overthink about what you feel happened. Chances are, if you didn't think it was so great, it doesn't necessarily mean that your interviewer holds the same feeling about the interview that you had. Okay, Chad. So you're not looking forward to the behavioral questions. I'm going to give you at the end of this a freebie for my Amazon Interview Whiz Academy that Blue Butterflies used to get their job. I'm going to give you a freebie on the customer obsession leadership principle. Please take it. Please use it. Please kind of get into it. It will really, really, really help you on the behavioral interviewing. It will explain exactly what they're talking about when it comes to customer obsession, exactly what they're looking for. I do a complete dissection of the leadership principles, and my course is focused completely on helping you do a brilliant job of behavioral interview questions. So I can help you take my customer obsession one for free, and then you'll see what the content I offer is and whether that will help you. I know probably don't have time for it now, but if you make past that round, then it might well be worth looking at that if that's the side of things that you're particularly uncomfortable about. Okay. Uma, you're interviewing for a content producer. Do I know what level that usually is? You'd have to give me the exact job title, Uma, for me to take a punt at it. But I wouldn't even necessarily know from the exact job title, because sometimes the job titles that they put on external materials like job descriptions isn't the actual job title. But if you want to give me the exact one, I'll tell you whether I think I can work it out or not. Oh, another one. Sergio, congratulations. You got an L7 in AWS. That's a big role. L7s are big roles, big scope. That's absolutely fantastic, Sergio. I won't give you the spiel that I just gave Blue Butterflies. Just know that what I just said to them counts for you too. You're going to have a great time. Congratulations. And that's a big job to land. So you obviously worked really hard, and you've got some good narratives to put on the table. So well done, you. Amazing. Congratulations. Okay. Let's just unpin you. Right. So, I've got some more. I can see some more good stuff below. I'm so excited. But for now, this is usually the part of the show where I ask everyone to please like the stream and give it a thumbs up. It makes a big difference to my content's ability to surface in the, quite frankly, shockingly bad YouTube algorithm. If you give a little thumbs up on the videos that you watch, particularly this one, but also any other video that I do, or just make a comment on the videos. I put a lot of effort into this for you, and that's a really small thing to do in return. I usually play a little video. I got a little kind of song and dance thing that happens, but I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this one live. We'll see. But do you know what? For now, because I put the effort into it, and quite frankly, it amuses me. And if I don't amuse me, then nobody else does. I'm going to pause momentarily and ask you to please like the stream, do a little thumbs up on this one. And then if you go and watch any of my other content, please just do me a favor, just a little thumbs up and maybe a comment to say hi or tell me how you feel about the video would make a big difference to me. But for now, I'm just going to play my little video for you. So you can, after 3, 2, 1, go and click that like button. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, go click the like button. Go on and like this stream for GG. Like this stream for GG. Like this stream and all your dreams will come true. Like this stream for GG. All right, that's done. Enough of that. Enough of that. I know it's slightly weird. Some people have been a bit freaked out by it. I didn't really have time to create a new video this week, so I'm sorry if that freaked you out completely. It's better than me singing and dancing. So if you haven't, please like, please, please, please. If you have, thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, let's move on, see what other questions that we've got going on. Oh, Sam, amazing. Number three for this live. Sam has been coming to my sessions for, it's got to be a good three weeks maybe, Sam, is it? Well done. Amazing. You are massively welcome. And again, I won't say it again because I just said it to Blue Butterflies, but you're going to love it. You're going to have a great career. And what a fabulous way to start 2022. I have my fingers crossed for you, Sam. I hope 2022 is a great year for you. Congratulations. Well done. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is a really good question, actually, Leylit. So for invent and simplify, it's the other way around. Can optimizing a Scrum model in an org be a good example? Though it's not a new invention, it's new to that particular team. Yes, you can use that. So invent and simplify is simply trying to find new ways of solving problems. So it could be a new way to solve a new problem, an old way to solve a new problem, or a new way to solve an old problem. That's right. That's the three of them. So yeah, you can absolutely use that as an example, but you just need to make sure it's got some meat behind it. So you really need to, you can't really just say, well, the obvious solution was to optimize this Scrum model, because then, okay, what makes you so special then? You're really going to have to create a little bit more color around it in terms of how you got to the decision that that was the right approach, and what was kind of special and different about that approach for not only this team, but maybe kind of more broadly why that's an innovative use of Scrum model. So yes, you can use it, but you just need to make sure that there's some complexity and some, dare I say, drama about the whole thing. I hope that's helpful. Hey, Manny. So, you're an ultimate user. Awesome. So, what would the interviewer be looking for when asking about having incomplete data to make a decision? So, usually that's bias for action. So, bias for action is about um, being able to move forward even when you don't have the full picture. So I think in my masterclass, you'll hear me talking about the 80-20 rule. So usually having incomplete data to make a decision is bias for action. But the assumption is that you have some data, right? If the question is about having no data to make a decision on, then your interviewer is probably leaning more towards I'll write a lot. I'll write a lot is, and it's such a fine nuance. And you'll all know that there are so many nuances where a leadership principle slightly overlaps with another. I'm sure you've all noticed that when you've been preparing. So I'll write a lot and bias for action are two of those leadership principles that really do kind of overlap quite a bit. If you think about a Venn diagram, I'll write a lot questions tend to be about when you really have no data whatsoever and you're just going to have to make a judgment call. Whereas bias for action is much more about you've got some data, but not as much as you would want to be able to have in a perfect world to make a decision. But you have to decide whether you're going to move forward in the absence of that 20%, let's say, data. I hope that helps, Manny. Any other questions, Manny? You can ping them on the Discord server. So if you don't know, you've got access to the Amazon Interview Wiz Academy community on Discord. And any question that you have kind of outside of these particular times where I'm available, you can just drop into the general chat on the Discord server. If you don't know how to get to it, go check out page 2 of all of your support sheets for each of the leadership principles, except for the customer obsession one. And you'll find all of the links to sign up to the Discord. Hope to see you there. Okay. Okay. Hi, is it Marwa? I'm really sorry if I've mispronounced that. So you had your panel interview, but after 10 days, you still didn't send an answer, and then you're writing exams. So any tips? So I'm not quite sure I understand what you're saying. If you're saying to me that you had your panel interview 10 days ago and you still haven't had a response, then although 10 days is double what the SLA commitment is, you should have heard back within 5 days. The teams are really struggling at the moment. So few of the candidates that I speak to actually get their answer within the SLA. So even if you haven't heard after 10 days, I wouldn't say that all is lost. I had one candidate from my academy hear nothing for, I think, 3 weeks and then got an offer. So just follow up your recruiter with an email and just try and chase them and try and get a response as to what the outcome of your interview was. If I've misunderstood the question, I apologize. Please just ask it again a bit further below. Hey, G. Counter. You had your phone interview, but they just hammered you with leadership principles. Is this normal? Nothing about your resume. First one was dive deep, and the second person asked you for leadership principles. Okay. So is it normal? Yes. Different people have different styles about how they interview. So I, for example, would never ask a candidate about their resume, because anything I need to know about their skills and their capability will come through when they answer the leadership principle questions. Because if they have a good scope of examples that gives me examples from the different parts of their job that they've done in the past, I will both learn about their technical capabilities and about their abilities against the leadership principles. So I never review anybody's resume. I always go straight into the leadership principles. Other people do it differently. Other people will ask for a kind of a little potted history of your resume before going into the leadership principles. So yes, G Counter, that's perfectly normal, insofar as normal even exists. Oh, Tom, you're counting them. 15 watching and 16 likes. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate the check. Chris, okay. Can you speak about the writing style within the interview? Not sure I understand the question, Chris. Do you want to rephrase that for me and ask it me again? I'm not sure if you want me to speak about the writing style or whether you're asking if you can speak about the writing style, and then I can't really imagine how that would work. So do me a favor and ask the question again a bit lower down. Hey, JSAC0000. You've got your loop for an AWS solutions architect. Yep. A management role. Fine. You've seen common questions about leadership principles posted online with manager at the end. Should you focus more on those during your prep versus others? I would say no, actually. And the reason why I say that is the ones with manager at the end are there so that it's clear that you should only ask those questions of managers, and that you shouldn't ask those questions of someone who's not a manager, because they wouldn't be able to answer them. They're not, no one reading the AIQB is directed that you must ask the manager questions. So I would just pick the question that I like the most from the leadership principle that I was assigned, as would most people in the interview panel. So you might want to make sure that you could respond to the ones that have bracket manager around them, because people who aren't going to be managers definitely won't get asked those ones. But just because they've got bracket manager around them, it doesn't mean that they are the predetermined questions that you must ask managers if you get that leadership principle assigned to you. I hope that makes sense. Sorry, I'm just looking for another question. Hey, this is a cool AMZ aspirant. I like it. Lay it there on the table for all to see what your ambition is. That's awesome. What would be the best tool for system design whiteboarding during loop? Is it okay to use paper and pen? The best person to talk to is your recruiter, to be honest with you. I think different managers prefer different solutions when it comes to the actual interview process. So I'm not sure that there is a best tool for system design whiteboarding. You should really check with your recruiter and ask their guidance, because they're going to know, the manager and the team, far better in terms of what their preferences are and what's worked for them in the past. It's my advice. Kim. All right. Good question, Kim. I'm glad you asked this. How can you tell which question aligns to which leadership principle? So the first step is to really, really understand the leadership principles. I know that sounds a bit trite, but if you really, really, really get the leadership principles and you understand what they are describing and what they're looking for in the behaviors of someone who's trying to demonstrate those leadership principles, you will be able to hear it in the question because you'll understand the leadership principle well enough to pick up the cues from the question. So that's the first thing, is really, really understand it. The second thing I'll say then is, one of the big mistakes that I see candidates make, or I saw candidates make all the time, and whenever I speak to interviewers at Amazon, they will say the same thing, which is they hear the question, they guess what the leadership principle is, and then they just pull out the question that they have, or the answer that they have crafted for that leadership principle, without actually making sure that that answer answers the question. So the best thing to do, Kim, first, really understand the leadership principles. Now, of course, I'm going to pitch my course, because my course is all about the absolute minutiae of detail around the leadership principles. And I will give you a freebie at the end so you can get a sense of whether you believe me when I tell you that. But if you're not going to take my course, then look at the leadership principles and break it down line by line by line by line, and try and work out what you think they're telling you they really care about for that leadership principle in each of those individual lines. That's got to be the first thing. Now, the reality is that every single question in the Amazon interview question bank that anybody comes up with at your interview comes out of the leadership principle. So if you've kind of understood the leadership principle well enough and all of its different facets, customer obsession has 4 kind of nuances. I call them facets. It's my own particular construct that I invented to help understand the leadership principles. If you've worked that out and you've got an example for 2 or 3 of those facets, chances are any question that an interviewer asks you about customer obsession will fit one of those examples that you came up with. So it's all about, just start with the leadership principles, really understand the leadership principles, craft your examples off the leadership principle. And then when someone asks you a question, instead of trying to guess the leadership principle, just say to yourself, do I have an example in my mental Rolodex? Yes, I am that old that I remember Rolodexes. Do I have one in my mental Rolodex that answers that question? And if you do, just use that and start answering the question. What your interviewer, their job is then to get the evidence for that leadership principle. So if you're not quite talking in the direction they need you to talk about, because they asked you about have backbone, disagree, and commit, you seem to be going a little bit too much along the earn trust pathway, it's their job to ask you follow-up questions that will get you back on track to have backbone, disagree, and commit. So pay attention, Kim, to the follow-up questions that you're asked, because there will be a lot of clues in the follow-up questions in terms of what are they actually trying to get at from a leadership principle point of view. So I hope that helps, Kim. As I say, please do stick around for the free leadership principle, customer obsession leadership principle masterclass. I'm pretty confident you'll love it. Oh my goodness. we got a 4th one today. So Psychopoodle, that is a good username. Let's be honest. I can only imagine what a Psychopoodle actually looks like. The visual image is just awesome. I'm a great visual thinker. You got an offer for a customer practice manager. Amazing. Amazing. I'm so thrilled for you. This is turning out to be a pretty good session despite all of my earlier drama. Congratulations. Amazing job. You'll love it. You'll have an amazing 2022. I'm feeling good about 2022, people. It's going to be better than 2021, and it'll be a darn sight better than 2020. I'm excited. I'm excited for you all. And I've got some exciting stuff coming in 2022 as well. You're not going to believe it. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Okay, what else do we have? Oh, thank you very much, Chris. Chris has dropped me $5. I really appreciate that, Chris. That's very kind. Okay, now I get what you're asking, Chris. Sorry. Yes. In the interview process, you understand you'll need to do a writing sample. Can I describe what they're looking for? Okay. Yes. So, Chris, most people who are interviewing for an L6 level role or above will be asked to do a writing sample. If you're interviewing for a more junior role than L6, You probably won't unless you are working in a role like product management, where writing is a very important element of the role. So I figure you probably will have to do a writing sample. Can I describe what they're looking for? Well, I did already do this because somebody asked me this at the beginning of the video. So without repeating myself, because that would be really boring for everyone else who's here, please either, when this video goes live, go back and listen to the chapters earlier. Or the better thing you can do, Chris, I did a whole video on this on my YouTube channel, all about the writing sample. So head back to my storefront and scroll through. I think I've put it in my Where to Start playlist, and go check that out. I go into a lot of detail about why they have the writing sample and some of my best tips and tricks in terms of how to land that writing sample really well. So sorry to not go over that ground again. I feel a bit embarrassed saying I'm going to answer you, but I'm not going to answer you. But you can go check out that video and all will be revealed. Okay, what else do we have? Oh, okay. So Marwa, you've got your L6 job as an ops manager on the 15th of December, and you still did not submit your answer for the writing test. So any tips? Yes, submit it. Submit the sample. I mean, you've got a while, so you don't need to rush. If your panel is on the 15th of December, as long as it's in before panel, you'll be fine. So get it in on the 13th or the 14th. And as I just said to Chris and all of the other people that were asking about writing sample, go check out my video about the writing sample, pay very close attention, and that will give you all of the tips that you need on how to write well as an Amazonian. I'm thinking about creating a full course about writing in Amazon, by the way, if anyone else would find that interesting. Yeah, good question. JSAC 0000 or quadruple zero. I don't know how best to describe that one. So in your first phone interview, they asked customer obsession. See, everybody, you need to take my Customer Obsession Masterclass for free. Would the LP be revisited again during your loop, or is it considered closed? Great question. I will tell you that I believe it will be revisited at your loop, because what managers will tend to do is front load the most important leadership principles early on in the process. Because if somebody can't show that they're raising the bar on the most leadership principles, on the most important leadership principle, you want to know that as soon as possible. You don't want to send them all the way through to loop to then discover that your most important leadership principle is one that they cannot raise the bar on. So you front load them and do them in the early interviews. So if someone's put customer obsession in your first ever interview, then chances are that's probably the most important leadership principle. And then they do bring it back round again because they want additional data points. You can't trust that one answer to a question, one answer to one question, or even two answers to two questions is representative of a person's consistent, repetitive behavior. So you bring it back again in loop to see whether they can come up with yet more examples of why they're so amazing at customer obsession. So you have multiple data points to validate that, yes, what you thought was an amazing bar-raising person on customer obsession is actually an amazing bar-raising person on customer obsession, and not just someone who had just one good example on customer obsession, which they did once in their entire career, and then the rest of their career they couldn't give two figs about a customer. So yes, I think you should expect it again. Yes, I think it's probably the most, if not one of the most important leadership principles for your role. And therefore, I suggest you try and find a different example that you can use in loop, and to avoid repeating the same one that you used early on. Mudassar trainer, I popped this up simply to tell you that I can't answer this question, because this is very much about knowing the specifics of exactly what the roles and responsibilities and scopes are of different people in that particular function. So how a team lead and an engineering manager are different from each other, apart from the management stuff, is not something I can tell you about, because I have never been an SDE. So Can't answer that one for you, I'm afraid. I find it a strange question because that's definitely not kind of a leadership principle based question. There's no behavioral data that they would gather from that. So I'm kind of curious as to why anybody would actually ask you that question in an SDM interview. Um, a good person to ask would be my friend Vivek. If you can find him on LinkedIn, he might be able to answer that one for you. But I'm sorry, that's a level of very technically specific kind of role questions that I cannot cover off. But I wanted to tell you that rather than ignore you, because I don't like ignoring people. Okay. Hey, Sandy. Hey, welcome back. So you have to do the writing assessment, but you weren't sure if your position was an L5 or an L6. It's a non-technical ops manager role for AWS. Look, do you know what? I'm going to take a punt and say I reckon that's an L6. I cannot see why an L5 ops manager would be asked to do a writing sample. So I may regret taking this punt. Hell, I regret all sorts of things that I do these days, but I'm going for an L6. But yes, you could ask your recruiter, but I don't really know why you'd want to ask your recruiter, because at the end of the day, what difference does it make? I have this conversation with people quite a lot in terms of the level of the role that they're applying for. In my view, it doesn't make any difference what the level of the role actually is. There's only really two things that matter. Is the role itself interesting to you, and is the level and scope of the work in the role interesting and challenging for you? Is the compensation that they're going to offer you what you need to be paid? If yes, 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 for all of those things, then what difference does it make what level the role is at? So my general advice is, please don't obsess too much on what the level of the role is. It doesn't matter. It's just a number. A number by any other number would smell just as sweet. That doesn't really work, but there you go. That's my advice for what it's worth. Hey, Sandeep. So you got rejected after your phone interview for an SDM and you were asked to apply 6 months later. Will you not be considered before 6 months? That's correct. So you've been asked to take a cool down period. So what will happen is the recruiter or the recruiter will put notes on your profile on Hire, which is the name of the system that they use, to note that you didn't pass and that they've put you into a 6-month cool down period. So that would be correct. Okay. So you were told by the recruiter to focus on 10 to 12 LPs. Yes, that's absolutely right. Generally, most roles will cover 10 to 12 LPs in the interview. The challenge is working out which 10 to 12. I hope they told you which 10 to 12, other than, because if they don't, then telling you to focus on 10 to 12 is utterly unhelpful. So that's my first thought on that one. In the loop, there would be one round dedicated to system design, or will it be combined as a subset to all the other LP interviews? So usually what will happen is if you're doing a technical interview for an SDE, I think that was, they will combine the technical competencies and the behavioral into an interview if you're at loop. So each person who interviews you will probably have one area to cover off from a technical competencies point of view, and then they will also cover off the behavioral questions as well. So everybody who interviews you gets a chance to cover your technical capability and then the leadership principles. That's the way it usually works. Now, as I've said many times before, because it usually works that way, it doesn't mean it always works that way. Teams have a ton of flexibility to do, right, it's for an SDM, okay. So teams have a ton of flexibility to do whatever they feel they need to do to get the right data from their candidates. So yes, I still think odds are that you'll get a mix of the technical competencies and the behavioral for each and every one of your interviewers. The other thing I will say, if it's an SDM role, then please go and check out a video on my YouTube channel. I know I say this so much, but I've put so many videos out there because people ask me these questions all of the time. Again, from Vivek. Venkat is another person, from Vivek on SDMs. So I have a video there where Vivek has talked through SDM interviewing at Amazon. He was an Amazonian for about 10 years. Now he works at Facebook. So go check that video out. It's also very popular. Marwa, hello. So could I please make videos about related questions to each LSP? Do you mean just LP, leadership principle? I think you've got the S for the ship bit. So I have, right, so let me explain. My masterclasses cover off, because Sandy's dropped in there. So I have a masterclass for every single leadership principle, every single one, all 16 of them. And the masterclasses break down into 3 sections. The first is I break down the leadership principles into their nuances. As I said, I have this thing called facets. It's a concept that I created. But when you understand the leadership principles as well as I do, you can see kind of trends deep inside them. So break them down into their facets. And then the second part of the masterclass tells you pretty much exactly what the interviewer is looking for data-wise for that leadership principle. And then there's a mock interview at the end where I ask myself a question on the leadership principle, and then I answer it. And it just helps you see how the whole thing comes together. So if you really want to understand the leadership principles, I would bet my life that there is no course more specific on the leadership principles out there, right? If you want to know the questions associated with each leadership principle, there are loads of websites all around the web where people have managed to get hold of this information and have just stuck it up for free on their websites. So you could just Google Amazon interview questions, Amazon interview question bank, and you are bound to land on somebody's article that literally gives you all of the leadership principle, all of the AIQB questions associated with that leadership principle. I actually have an article on my own website that does that, because I basically read all of these other people's articles, pulled all the questions that they had that I knew were right, because I pretty much know them all off by heart. In fact, no, I do know them all off by heart, and then just ignored all of the ones that were complete nonsense that God only knows where they came from. So if you want to know the questions associated with the leadership principles, just do some Googling. You'll find it pretty quickly. If you really want to understand the leadership principles, I will give you my Customer Obsession one for free, and you can decide whether that's something that you want to invest in further. Okay. What else? Okay. Hey, Monica. So you have your loop next week. Should you prepare for some leadership principle specific questions? Yeah, that's about all you should be preparing for. In my opinion, what are they looking for in this position? Well, Monica, first of all, you haven't even told me. Oh, you've got a senior marketing strategist. Right. Okay. So I can't tell you what leadership principles they're looking for, because every single role is unique. A hiring manager gets to choose effectively, well, they get to choose which leadership principles they want tested for their role. Now, I'm a marketer, so I could take a punt, but I don't want to do that because I've never seen your job description. So what you need to do, Monica, is go and dive deep into your job description, print it off, whatever, go through it line by line, by line, by line, by line, and look at the language used. If you understand the leadership principles well, what you'll then be able to do is connect the language to the leadership principles. What I do, I offer a service where I will review your job description, you as in the royal you. I can review the job description. What I do is I go through it line by line by line. I identify the language, and then I mark down how many times each leadership principle is kind of inferred by the language. And then I stack rank them. And that broadly gives a really good indicator as to what are the most important leadership principles. I can do that for you. But you can do it yourself as well. I have 2 videos on my YouTube channel. Again, go to my storefront and you'll see them in their own playlist, where I do that live for people. So people literally give me their job description ID, as you've just done there, and I go to Amazon's job portal, look at the job description and break it down for them. I don't do them very often because they're really hard work and quite scary. But if you check those out in my YouTube channel, it will give you a really good kind of guide towards how you can do that for yourself. There is a link in the description for that if you want me to do it for you. Okay, so Right, so sorry, I got distracted there. I've kind of floated off. Right, we are now at time. So as I said, I'm going to give you this freebie, and I'm telling you, this is the best freebie you're going to get. This is the best freebie you're going to get for preparing for an Amazon interview. I'm going to stake my reputation on that. So go check out the AmazonInterviewWizAcademy.com. There you will get my free, I've said this how many times now? I don't know. Customer Obsession Leadership Principle Masterclass. Go take it. Totally free. There will be no follow-up marketing as a result of this. I know that's usually why people give stuff for free. I've been in marketing for 20 odd years. I know how it works, but I don't do that because I just want you to like my content. And if you like it enough, I have a bit of faith that you will then invest further in my content. And if you don't, then that's fine. I give you the customer obsession one because you're all going to get asked customer obsession. If you get all the way to the loop, you will be asked customer obsession. So if I'm going to give anything away for free, I want to give the thing that most people are going to get value from. And I know everyone's going to get value for that. So please go to the website, check it out, enjoy it. If you haven't already liked the stream, please do. Please do. Please. I really appreciate it. It makes a big difference to me. And hopefully one day I'll rank above all of the other rubbish that ranks above me in YouTube. So on that note, I'm hemorrhaging people because everyone knows it's time to go. So thank you very much for joining. I'm sorry for those of you who had trouble finding my stream because of my technical issues. I will be back again on Monday. So stay safe. New coronavirus variant out there. So look after yourselves and your family. Stay safe and good luck if you have interviews coming up. And for those of you who managed to land roles already, I'm super, super pleased for you. And it's been a privilege being able to support you in that. Be safe, everybody. And I will see you again soon, I hope. Bye.